Welcome back to Open Line. Just in case you're joining us here right about 7:30, I want to reset and tell you what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about mail-in voting. Many of you did it for this past primary we had last week, and the November election coming up, the general election, will be different when it comes to who can qualify to get one of those mail-in ballots. Tom Castelli is joining me. He is Tennessee's legal director for the ACLU. Tom, thank you for being with us tonight. You guys have been in court with the state over this issue because of the coronavirus and how it may impact voting and going to a polling location. Tell us what the latest is when it comes to November's election.
Certainly. So the court ruling that was in effect for the August election said that anybody that had either a underlying health condition that made them particularly vulnerable to COVID, or just had a fear of contracting it and felt like the COVID situation, it was best for them not to vote in person, they could apply for and receive an absentee ballot and vote by mail. The new ruling from the Supreme Court has basically separated those two categories of people and said those that are in that vulnerable category, that have some kind of health condition that makes them especially vulnerable to COVID, they can vote by mail, even if they didn't qualify before. But people that don't have an underlying health condition and don't otherwise qualify for an absentee ballot can no longer request one and receive one. So that's the main difference here, is we kind of reduce the number of people that are now eligible for these absentee ballots.
But there is a question mark in what exactly qualifies you, and you don't necessarily have to prove it, but you also shouldn't lie just to get an app. I mean, that would be against the law. And people can right now start requesting ballots. So there's a lot of confusion, I guess.
No, I think there is, and I think that's something that needs to be shored up here in the next several weeks as people start requesting these ballots. I mean, we're ballot early or absentee voting opened on August 5th. You could start requesting your ballot then. That doesn't mean you're going to get it,
right? But
you can start requesting it then. So people need to know, what qualifies as what qualifies someone as being vulnerable, especially vulnerable to COVID. What is, and is, the other thing is, if you're the caretaker of somebody that's got a special ability, you could vote by mail. What does that mean? Who is a caretaker? What qualifies you to do that? These are all, I think, questions that need answers, so that people, when they sign that application under penalty of perjury, which, as you said, we don't want people to lie, and we certainly don't want people to commit perjury. So when they sign that, they do so with confidence that they are that they're one of the people that qualify for this ballot.
Yeah, we do have a caller on the line. Joe is ever so waiting. I can't even say it. Waiting patiently. There we go. I got a case of the Mondays. Joe, thank you for being with us. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, I think. Go ahead.
Okay, so I don't think, the question about mail-in balloting obviously really isn't an issue. We obviously have, absentee balloting that's been going on for decades, and the mail-in balloting, what's happening today is a lot different than, say, what was happening 4 years ago or 10 or 8 years ago or whatever. And the question is the magnitude of it. So we already know that the federal government, doesn't provide money to the postal system unless the postal system requests a loan. And I'm sure the doctor understands that. But the postal system runs free and independent of the federal government. And another thing is that you can't possibly believe that a day before a federal vote that somebody can legitimize somebody registering to vote. 30 days, I think, is at least legitimate and appropriate. It should be 90 days to verify all their information and make sure that they're able to, that they're an American citizen and they're able to vote in the United States. And we're talking about a federal voting. We're not talking about states. States can have illegal immigrants vote. States can decide what they want. But during a federal election for the President of the United States, only United States citizens can vote in that. And I think the doctor's dead wrong on saying, well, they should be able to register a day before the vote. And I want his comments on that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joe. And I just want to clarify, Tom is with the ACLU. He's a lawyer, not a doctor. But Tom, I'll let you respond.
Yeah, not a doctor. But sure, I disagree with the caller. I think that we have the technology and the ability to verify people's identities and register them to vote. And I'm not even saying the day before. I'm saying when you show up on election day, and other states do it. It's when you register to vote, you have to show proof of citizenship, which can be your birth certificate or your passport, or your naturalization papers. You have to, prove who you are. And so we're not short-circuiting any of that. We're just saying that it can be done a lot quicker than it's being done now. So, we have this kind of arbitrary 30-day deadline that you have to register to vote right now. And if you miss that, you don't get to vote. And so, I think for me, that's the magnitude of the right here. This is the right to participate in the democracy and have your voice heard. And choose who is going to govern you. And, we have kind of these deadlines that we put on it that maybe we don't need. Maybe we did in the past, but, technology is caught up to where we can do this with little instance of any type of voter fraud happening. And I think we should take advantage of that.
I've been watching our Facebook feed and some of the questions and comments coming in on that, Tom. And somebody said, how do you cut down on this? You register to get a mail-in ballot and you're waiting, because you can do that right now. You could move between now and the time that it arrives in your mailbox, by the time they're printed and they're shipped out. How do you stop someone filling that out for you? And that would be fraud. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of hypothetical fears, but we don't see a lot of instances of that happening. One, I think, is people are pretty responsible. If you know you're about to move in 7 days, you don't request your ballot until you've got your new address. One, because you're going to have to register to vote at your new address. You may be in a different precinct. You may have different people you vote for. But but also it happens with in-person voting, and not someone's going to fill it out for you. And I think this person may be fearing that they'll intercept the ballot, fill it out. But part of the statute is that when you get that absentee ballot back, there has to be signature matches. There are safeguards put in place to try to keep it from someone intercepting the ballot and filling it out, or from someone just filling out your ballot, and not telling you and sending it in. So I think that there are safeguards in place that we've been using for quite a while with absentee balloting, and so so those are what makes it safe from this kind of fear of fraudulent voting.
Is this an issue that the ACLU will continue to push here in Tennessee, even when we get beyond the coronavirus, which is a wonderful thing to think about that someday this is going to be in our rearview mirror?
Yeah.
But is the ACLU going to continue to push this?
Yeah, I think that we would like to see, voting take place in, in a lot of different forms. I think vote by mail, universal vote by mail is a goal for Tennessee someday, even outside of COVID. I think that's a trend nationwide, and I think and hope that Tennessee will follow it. But I want to be very clear: we are not ever suggesting that we take away election day, that we take away in-person voting or early voting. And I think there may be people that advocate everybody should vote by mail, and we shouldn't even have to bother with polling places and all of this. And that is not where we are. We want both.
Why?
Why? And I think for some people, as we've heard tonight, some people have a fear that maybe the post office is going to be too slow. Maybe they don't think it's as safe. And if they want to choose a different type of way to vote, that should be an option. Kind of the same reason we brought this lawsuit. We felt like people needed to have this option in order to feel safe to vote. So, and I think that goes both ways. Also, some people prefer to vote in person. Mm-hmm. Some people don't want to make up their mind until they walk up on election day and see the candidates. Those options should be preserved. things can happen between when you cast, you send in your absentee ballot and when you go in. And if you haven't made up your mind, maybe you want to reserve that opportunity. Maybe you're just someone like me who just really enjoys going on election day and voting and participating in that civic thing and really miss it when you can't do it.
Right.
But so those are, maybe that last one's not, the best reason, but it's still a good reason to keep in-person voting. And so that's where we are. I mean, bottom line, I think we want to make voting available to as many people who are eligible, who want to vote. And that may be making it available in a variety of ways, as we've already done. We're just expanding some of those ways so that it includes more people.
Yeah. Let's get back to the lines here. We have Mike on the line. Mike, you are on the air. Go ahead.
Hello, Carrie. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Hello. I'm doing all right. Hello
Good.
to your guest as well. Just to cut to the chase,
Okay.
and we played this political theater, if you will, especially coming from the White House. And he just appointed a new postmaster general who has no experience at all working in the postal system. I mean, I bet he hadn't even gotten his own mail from his post office box in front of his house. But basically, it's all about having us do the traditional way of voting, where he knows Russia's going to be hacking into our system to help him win. At this point, he's 2 points, double digits behind Biden, and he knows that if we do mail-in voting, absentee voting, just to be on the safe side so we won't spread this COVID-19, he knows that's a disadvantage for him. And if we have to be mandatory to where we have to go to the polls in a pandemic, he knows that's going to benefit him because the Russians are working to make sure that he wins again. And that's just my statement. And you guys have a good night. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Tom, any comments on that?
Well, I think Mike makes a good point about one of the features of absentee voting is that it's a paper ballot. There's a trail there. You can't really hack that paper trail. There are a lot of concerns about some of these machines, and some of them have like a paper backup, or they give you a receipt so you can review it. But over the years, there have been a lot of problems with those, and kind of going back to the question earlier, that might be a reason someone would rather vote by mail. They don't trust the machines, and that might be a valid reason for that person. I mean, I hope that we can make those machines as safe as we can, and maybe have paper backups, and so that we don't have those concerns. But I think all of that kind of folds into why vote by mail should be an option.
Yeah. Let's. We have a couple callers on the line now. Taylor is up. Hi, Taylor.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
Interesting subject here. I've voted by mail twice in my life. Once is when I was in the military.
Thank you for your service.
I had to mail the ballot from Seattle, Washington, back to Tennessee. The second time, I got an absentee ballot, and I think you can still vote absentee if you're going to be out of town and away from the polls during the election day, and I did that one time. That was more important back when we only had 1 day to vote, and believe it or not, a lot of states still only have 1 day of voting. Tennessee does a great job of early voting, a lot of days to do it on, and I get so sick of hearing some of these, I think, false claims about how trying to stop or make a hindrance to voting. And I know the ACLU doesn't like ID and every other thing that the Democrats push for, but I think the current absentee voting ballot that Tennessee has and the rules around them are as clean as it can be. And I agree with Joe. I don't much believe in registering on the day of the election. I think the election is very important. I think if you've not got enough interest to do things right, either change your address or do what you need to do to get registered and on time. If you're flying through the life on the seat of your pants, I don't think you should be too darn concerned about your very special right to vote. So that's my comment about it, and I think the Tennessee is doing a great job in the Secretary of State's office. Thank you.
Taylor, thank you for calling in, and thank you for your service, by the way. I have to sneak in a quick break, but I do have a question to follow up on that when we get back, and we also have Suzanne to get to on the line. So stay with us. Much more after this.